What if I told you that the quality of your clients is determined far before anyone signs up to work with you? Great clients start out as great quality leads, and lead quality is determined before you ever get on a call by what sits between your website and your calendar. And for most coaches and online businesses, the thing that sits between your website and your calendar is simply a name and an email input box. But that doesn't effectively filter potential clients, which is why their calendars fill up with no-shows and with people who are not ready to invest in their offer. Now, between my website and my calendar is a form that asks questions before anyone can actually get on my calendar. The questions on that form do a lot of filtering, and they are one of the reasons why I can count my no-shows over the last 3 years on one hand. I'm Jenny Lakenan. I've built over 150 websites over the last 8 years for coaches, consultants, experts, and this form has been the front door to my business almost the entire time. So in this video, I will show you why this VideoAsk form is one of the best things that I think you can do to get better clients. I'll also build one on screen for you from scratch and give you the 3 categories of questions that do the filtering, plus one sign of really high quality clients that people filling out your form are not going to be able to fake. Adapt this to your intake process and you'll be able to walk into your consults the way that I do, which is already knowing the person can afford to work with you and that they are ready to do the work. The fastest way, I think, to show you what a VideoAsk form can do for your business is to just show you what my process looked like before I had one. For the first 6 months or so of my business, there was not anything between my website and my calendar at all. So if you found my site and you wanted to talk, you just clicked a button and you were on my calendar. So that meant that I walked into every call blind, someone with a $500 budget for a $5,000 project, people who wanted an hour of free consulting, people who booked a time and then just didn't show up. So to help combat that, I built a longer form, and I want to be fair to that form. It definitely worked. It was 5 pages of written questions, almost the same ones that I asked today. And the beauty of it was that wrong fit inquiries didn't hit my calendar anymore. I used it to book projects for close to 4 years. The problem with that form and what I didn't like about it was how it felt. It kind of felt like filling out paperwork in a doctor's waiting room. And the thoughtful, established coaches that I most wanted to work with got that same kind of like doctor's office experience as everybody else, which is just like a wall of lengthy boxes to fill in. Then in January of 2023, I found out about this amazing tool called VideoAsk. And I started using it at first just to collect client testimonials. Instead of them just responding to like a written question in an email, they got to see a short clip of me asking the question about their testimonial, and then they could respond either by typing or recording a video or recording like an audio message. And what struck me about this was how personal it felt. It was for existing clients and they were able to leave a testimonial almost feeling like they were in the room with me having a conversation. And I thought, how amazing would this be if I could extend that same feeling to potential clients? So in March of 2023, I rebuilt my intake form using VideoAsk. I actually still have my planning notes for that week. I wrote that I wanted to bring this more personal touch into my consult process and get more information from them so that I can help my potential clients better. And you'll notice what is not in those notes was the filtering aspect, because the old form was already doing that filtering. It was already screening people out. What the video version changed is that the screening stopped feeling so much like a screening for the potential client. At every step, there's a clip of me, it's about 5 or 10 seconds long, asking a question and explaining why I'm asking it so that the person that's filling out my intake doesn't necessarily feel like they're filling out an intake. It just feels like they're having a conversation with me, like they've already met me. Within a few months, this new VideoAsk really earned its keep. A coach reached out, and before we ever got on a call, I knew that she helps midlife women who look successful on the outside, but are really struggling on the inside, feeling stuck. Because she said it herself in her own words on the form. I knew what her goals were. She wanted to go from 4 or 5 consults a month up to 10. and she wanted to have 8 to 10 ongoing clients. A few of her signals in her intake also read a little bit hesitant. Like she said, hey, I'm coaching part-time. I bought, your website template, but I've just kept procrastinating on it. But then right after that in her intake, she said, that said, I'm ready to get serious about my business. And I walked into that call able to be so prepared to know where she was already at so that we could spend the call talking about the actual work instead of about, who she is and what her business is. And, on the call, she was a verbal yes. She signed after that. And she even upgraded from my entry-level package to like the next tier above it. Her quality as a client really was set on the form before we ever talked. And it even helped her to kind of sell herself on the fact that, no, this really is the next step for me to be serious about my business. Because that intake form is really doing 3 jobs at once. It screens out the obvious not a good fit people so that those calls just don't happen. It briefs me on the right ones so that the call starts out with about, 50 or 60% context instead of me starting at 0. And it gives the person a glimpse of what it's like to work with me and how personal that relationship is and the, process that I have to support them so that we start the call on the best absolute foot that we can. Now, to be clear about what to expect when you put an intake like this in front of your traffic, fewer people will fill it out, noticeably fewer than just a name and an email input box. But that is the point, because the people who drop off are the same people who likely would have been the no-shows or the people that are just asking for free advice. The right people to be filling this form out that you want on your calendar are going to look at these intake questions differently. Think about going to the doctor. If they prescribed you something without asking about your symptoms, you would probably second guess what they had told you, because the questions are how they're going to know how to diagnose what you are dealing with. The psychology around a good intake form works exactly the same way. The right people are going to fill out your intake form and use it as proof that you are a professional. The wrong people are going to read it as too much work. And both of those things combine to really improve your lead quality. So that's what the VideoAsk has done for me. How much it improves your lead quality really comes down to the questions that are inside it. So let's spend the rest of this video really building those out. By the way, if you want to experience my intake form from start to finish before you start building yours out, I made a free demo version of it that you can click through and it won't save your answers or anything like that. Last summer, I actually showed this demo on a story brand panel, and the chat was incessantly asking me for the link. So I made one and, I might as well just share it with you here. Go ahead and I'll put the link in the description and I will send you the demo in your inbox. Okay, but back to this. Let me open VideoAsk and I will build a full intake from scratch, and I'll tell you what each question is for as I add it. So the mechanic is actually super simple. VideoAsk is really easy to use. What you'll do is you'll click New Video Ask and then hit Start from Scratch. You'll give it a name and then you'll hit Record. And then the idea is that you're asking the question out loud and giving a little bit of extra context on why you're asking that question. All right, let's make it really easy to start. What is the name of your business? So the overlay question might be something like, what's the name of your business? And in the video, I say something like, let's start really simple. Why don't you tell me what the name of your business is? It's just a more conversational, personal feel. And then you go to the video tab after you've recorded and you type in your overlay text. Go to the answer tab, and then you can choose how they answer, whether you want video, audio, or text. For an intake form where they don't know you very well, I would just toggle off video and audio and only have text as an option. Then you hit done and you just repeat that for as many questions as you have. VideoAsk makes it super easy to use. My live form has about 10 questions, but you're not going to want to copy my questions because mine are more specific to web design. What you'll want to think about for your business are the categories. There are 3 categories of questions that I usually use, plus one signal that's not really a question at all, but is actually one of the most important steps in the VideoAsk. Category 1 is the before and after. These questions serve to show you the gap that this person is considering hiring you to close. For a coach or an expert, that's typically about 3 or 4 questions total in this category, enough to see the gap without making the form really cumbersome. So my second real question in the video ask is about what their business does. I say, what does your business do? What products or services do you offer? Record the clip, put in the answer in the overlay text, and then choose text as the response. I typically don't recommend choosing video or audio as a response option because these people don't know us very well yet, and I want them to be intimidated by the thought that they need to put in video or audio. Then I ask a question about where they're trying to get to. So for me, that's what are the top 5 business needs of your new website? Right there, I'm trying to help build a picture of where this person is now and where they want to be. I'll also drop in a quick contact step on this question. That way it collects their name and email and I know who I'm talking to. Then add at least one question that checks whether they're even in your world at all. So mine, I'm asking about their current website. What's your current URL? What about it serves your business well? A YouTube coach might ask, do you have a YouTube channel? A business coach might ask, do you have a revenue goal? You're not really qualifying them yet with this question, but you are checking that they're even just standing in the right building. Now, that first category alone is going to screen out most of the wrong fit inquiries. Category 2 is more about motivation. Self-reported commitment scores can lie, but it's hard to fake a good why question. 1 or 2 questions in this category is usually plenty. A lot of forms might ask something like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to, doing this work? And the answer is pretty much always going to be 9 or 10 because that's what I'm going to say when I'm filling something out. Yeah, I'm motivated. But to get better, more detailed information, it's better to ask why instead. Why is now the time to finally solve this? Or a pair that I love from my coaching clients forms, what have you tried before and why did it stop working? You can't really fake a specific answer to those. And a vague answer in itself is actually very informative as well. Category 3 is about money. And I would suggest that you help your person that's taking your intake form along by using some real concrete numbers rather than just having like an open-ended budget question. Open-ended budgets, 2 questions can achieve this. The money and then the show up commitment. I don't typically ask an open-ended, hey, what's your budget question? It sounds very direct and straightforward, but it actually kind of puts them in a difficult spot because they don't know what coaching costs and what your services cost. And they don't want to offend you by saying really low, but they also don't want to say really high and then price themselves out. That is why they are getting in touch with you in the first place. So give them numbers to react to. You don't have to say, hey, my packages are XYZ, but you can have implied pricing. And to do that, we can give them some multiple choice options. So first, a question that's a yes or no kind of gut check. Are you prepared to make a low 4-figure investment to solve this problem or something like that? Then you give them ranges in the next question. And I'll just use placeholder numbers here. Plug in your own ranges. By the time they've answered both of these questions, you and they both really understand where they are. And now if ranges make you feel really uncomfortable and they feel like too much, you can use that more implied pricing strategy instead. So something like, my packages start at X. Are you prepared to make that kind of investment? And you can steal one question from the more bold application forms out there, which is, if your application is approved, are you committed to showing up to the call? They'll say yes, obviously, but that's not really the point. The point is that it sets the tone that this is a real appointment with a real professional and we are taking it seriously. And that third category is really where your lead quality changes the most because most inquiry forms are never going to ask about money at all. Now, here is the piece that's my favorite part, and it really makes the whole thing run itself, and that is having the branch. This is the one part that is a little bit more than clicking record, but it's still just a few clicks. On that budget answer, I add conditional logic. If they pick a range that is below my kind of minimum threshold, the form is going to end in a simple thank you page that says that I'll be in touch soon and, here's a resource that they can use in the meantime. And then I follow up personally by hand with a warm email, something like, most of my clients in your situation are budgeting between X and Y to really be happy with the end result. Otherwise, this seems like a great fit and I would really love to work with you. So if you have room in your budget, let me know. If I've just said not yet, the last thing they want from me is a drip campaign. If they pick a qualifying budget range, the form itself shows them my scheduling page on the confirmation screen so that they can book an appointment right there. So from their submission to the moment that their consult appointment is on my calendar, I don't touch anything. I'd suggest you do this too. Once this conditional branching exists, let it do the booking. If you are still going back and forth by hand with every submission, you're introducing a lot of friction that is potentially going to keep you from making money. So I would definitely introduce some automation here to make it a better client experience. And if you ever thought about hiring a setter to vet your calls, this VideoAsk branching handles that job, and it costs you nothing past just paying for the VideoAsk subscription. One of my clients, a business coach named Max Rosenkrantz, runs a bolder version of this on the site that we built him. Every question is required, and then the scheduling calendar actually doesn't appear unless the answers show that he is the right fit. Everyone else gets routed to an offer that suits them better, and his calls are pre-vetted. Nobody hits a dead end. He also doesn't have to email them afterwards if they aren't a good fit. They just are going to know right away. Now, one last click here before we look at the results. When the form is done, VideoAsk gives you an embed code that you can drop into any website on any platform, or you can skip the embed entirely and just send people the link directly. So that is the build. And these three categories of questions really do the filtering. But there's a fourth signal that I trust the most, and it isn't really a question at all. It's how they fill this intake out, because you can tell a lot about someone by how they fill out your video ask. Let me show you a real one from a client. This came from a business coach. What does her business do? Business coaching for nutritionists and health coaches through 2 group coaching programs. That's just one sentence, and I already know exactly who she is and how decisive and developed she is as a business. Then her top needs, and this is where a serious potential client is going to stand out. Instead of something vague like, I want a nicer website or I want more clients, she handed me a numbered list: SEO, and her words, stickiness, where new visitors get lost in the content with a feeling like they just stumbled on a treasure trove of everything that they ever needed in one place. Updated visuals to match her positioning, template pages so her team can plug and play from one optimized layout, more email subscribers, and then, did I mention more email subscribers with like a smiley face? And what that tells me is she thinks about her website like a professional. She's got a team and she knows her priorities in order. And on the money question, she said, yes, I have the financial resources to invest right now. And she gave me like a 5-figure range. I walked into that call already knowing that the job was about conversions and reorganizing her content, that she had a team that we needed to build for. She had a real budget and she had a very clear picture of what she wanted. There was very little for me to figure out, which meant that I could just focus on having a sales conversation with her. Compare that to like a name and an email address, which is what most inquiry forms are going to hand you. And notice one more thing. On the budget question, she added, I was a little unsure how to answer. It really depends on the scope when you see what we've already got going on. And to me, that reads as someone that's thinking out loud about a real question. They're taking it seriously. They're not just tire kicking. So that's really the fourth signal, how someone fills out the form. And that tells you a lot about how invested they are in this process. And here's what a form like this gets you that a very plain one never will. I'm surprised at how easy this was to answer. How do you do this video question thing? I love it. That's a real note from a real intake, and I actually get notes like that pretty frequently. A plain form is a lot less noteworthy. It's less likely to get any kind of reaction. And this one does, because filling it out feels like talking to me. And that is the whole reason why I built it. Now, here's a bonus move that costs you just like 60 seconds. The day before the consult, send a short personal video. This is separate from the video ask entirely. It's just a manual video that you send. You can use Loom or Bonjoro, or, there are other tools that will do this. And just keep it really simple. Say, hey, I'm really looking forward to our conversation tomorrow. Here's what I really noticed about your intake form. Here's what we're going to talk about. And just send it to them in an email. By the time they get on the call, they have seen your face twice. They've talked to you once. People love it when I do this personal step, and they open up so much faster because you already feel very familiar to them. VideoAsk runs about $50 a month, and for something that my whole sales process leans on, it is one of the easiest checks that I write all month. And if you'd rather not build it yourself, that is a thing that I do. I build these for clients, usually as part of their website build. So while we're in there, we can make sure that your intake forms are really pulling their weight too. The link to start is in the description. And yes, it is the exact form that you just watched me walk through. Either way, grab the demo link and click through it and notice how it feels from that side of the screen. That is the experience that your best fit clients should be having from the first moment that they meet you.